Hi everyone, I'm Holly from Clade, and I'm going to walk you through the reports today in the tool. You can see across the top, there's reporting for each feature that's separated by function. So if you want to know more about your dividing processes, go to dividing. If you're hybridizing, go to hybridizing. I'm going to start and go through each tab. There's the main reports home, which will tell you basic information. How many tubers do you have? How many for sale if you're selling them, and then we'll calculate potential revenue if you have tubers for sale as well as the price point. I haven't sold any tubers yet, so I don't have that information. These are helpful charts to understand where the distribution is across your color, form, and size. You can see, for example, that I don't grow very many giant dahlias anymore. I don't have much of a use for them. And I tend to lean towards the decorative side of things. I've been trying to build up more whites as I sell to florists, so I finally have a few more whites, but it was a low category for a long time. So if you want to know where you fall, that really helps. You can also see where you're purchasing a lot of your dahlias from if you're collecting supplier. If you're pricing your tubers, for sale, you can see which ones are top revenue generators, which ones are highest priced. Mine are all $0. And then where you have the most of particular varieties or the least of particular varieties. I tend to grow one or two of almost everything. But if you grow many more than that, you'll see a lot of information. It's your top and bottom 30. That's it for the main tab, just an overview of your inventory. Then if you track your dividing efforts in Clade, you'll see how many tubers are ready for planting, which is a different field, how many tubers have been divided and are viable. So you can see I have more tubers that I have divided than I am ready to plant, which means I have a surplus I can sell. You can also see how many were non-viable, maybe coming out of storage, for example. And then it'll do the math to say how many tubers per clump are you getting on your best varieties versus your worst varieties. I haven't divided yet. I divide in the spring, so there's not a lot of data here. Same with storage scores. So we'll look at how many varieties did you put into storage, how many came out, where did you lose the most. Again, you have to track that, but then we'll give you in the reporting which is the best. And then you can score it for yourself. So which ones you think are top and bottom. Like I would have Cafe au lait over on my worst scores because that one I just have the hardest time storing. And same with most viable varieties, least viable. So where are you getting the best scores across? Hopefully that can really help perfect what you do with tubers in the future. If you have varieties that have really low viability and you primarily make your revenue from selling tubers, maybe you don't grow those in the future. Planting is the module where you track getting tubers out of storage, waking them up, sprouting them, potting them if you do. I do pot all mine up because I'm in zone 6A, and then planting them out in the field and where you planted them. Once they're planted, you can track when did they get that first bloom, and thus you can see, yes, how many planted, sprouted, potted, and then how quickly did they bloom. My first to bloom this year, I think was aubergine, was either aubergine or Solman. And you can track that year over year, which is fun. And then same with sprouting. I know some dahlia tubers are notorious for taking a long time to sprout. I know I have some that take months. I'm excited to track them this year so I can actually remember which varieties those are because I haven't tracked them in the past. I just know that they do. So this is where if you track that, you'll see that data. For those who sell cut flowers, we have a module to track that separately. So you can track how many stems you're harvesting in a season, how many you're selling to retail or wholesale. And then if you track like 2 harvest cycles, 2 or 3, we'll start to look at the difference between harvest cycles. There's some dahlias that will throw up blooms every week and others that you need 2 weeks. Or if you're harvesting every 3 days, maybe you need 6 days instead of 3. So that should be helpful to understand the ROI of certain varieties to use as cut flowers. And then we'll show you which ones yield the most and least. cuttings is really helpful for those who want to track their cutting process. So how many cuttings did you take? How many rounds are you doing? What the success is. I haven't really done any cutting seriously, so you're not going to see data in here. But you can have cuttings that you sell if you do that, or if you're just taking cuttings to pop up, you can look at the viability. We also tracked speed to sprout here because it's nice. If your tubers sprout really quickly, it's going to be easier to take cuttings than if they take months to sprout. And then we look at which ones you're getting the most success with, since some varieties are notoriously bad for doing cuttings from. And then the ROI is looking at how much you can sell a cutting for versus how many you can get and which ones are most worth your while. Last is hybridizing. Hybridizing is a feature at one of our higher tiers for those who hybridize. I have a few seedlings I've done and kept, and you can track which year that they're in, and you can see similar things to the inventory because this is a separate module where you can see what is it looking like for your seedlings with form, size, color, and then what year your seedlings in. I started doing this last year, so none of my seedlings are past year 2. You can track seed parents and pollen parents, which is really helpful. We actually even go back to grandparents. And then you can track which ones are rated. And that's it for reporting.